All right. Hey, happy, what are we? Wednesday here. Wow, hump day. It's our hump day call today, our hump day snack and learn. And you guys are going to be so glad you are joining us, whether it's live or on replay, for this particular conversation with Jess. There's so much about what she does and how she does it that really attracted me early on to make me go, hey, Jess, you really want to be a member of the Profit Concierge Campground because there is so much I need to learn from you. And by the way, we'll make it a place where you can really join a really, really cool community. And Jess, you are one of the people that make it that way. So welcome. I'm going to do a proper introduction, but just want to say welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you too.
So let me give you a little background, folks. Jess is a holistic health coach, health and fitness coach. She helps overwhelmed and exhausted women, any takers, get off of the weight loss roller coaster, which has been one of my biggest issues. Reclaim their energy and their confidence, because no matter what your health history is, no matter how little time you have, no matter how many times you've quote unquote failed at weight loss, there is a way to get out this without using intense workouts, restrictive diets, supplements, all of that stuff. So Jess believes that every single woman deserves to feel comfortable, confident, and capable in their beautiful bodies. And that is such a big thing with people on the weight loss roller coaster, is that we think we're not beautiful in these bodies. And I loved the fact that you really approach that differently and says this is 100% possible without intense workouts. And why does Jess know this, right? There's a really good reason Jess knows this, because she had to learn to manage her own genetic hypermobility disorder. So she realized at one point, which we'll talk about today, how that there's really an easier and more effective way that's far more enjoyable to healthy living. So she helps her clients find that, rediscover their health, fall in love with these bodies, and start living the life of their dreams with their physical bodies that they have and can develop and make even healthier. So without further ado, welcome. You have hit on so many hot spots for me. It's amazing.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
So whereabouts in the world or country are you right now?
I am in New Mexico.
Nice. How long have you been in that area?
I was born and raised here, actually. I escaped for 4 years to Indiana for my undergrad and then came back here because I didn't know what I was doing.
Do you love it there, though?
I do. Like, the weather is wonderful and the landscape is just the best. Like,
that's what got me, is the landscape there.
Just
food. Yeah, that's true. You've got good food for sure.
Yeah, great food.
So one of the things I think we've talked about is the fact that you had this genetic, I don't know if it's a genetic disorder or a genetic, I don't know what the right terminology is. You can straighten me out on that. But you had been to doctors your whole life and done all of the conventional things and nothing worked. Tell me a little bit about when you decided to kind of change that pattern and why and what you came up with.
Yeah, so it's a hypermobility disorder. It's called it's one type of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So it's basically where my body does not produce collagen properly. It's not as strong as it should be. It's very stretchy. So you see like contortionists have it, and like the guy who's got the super stretchy skin has it. And then for me, it presents in my muscles and joints for the most part. So I'm just super flexible. And I've always known I was flexible. Like, doctors would look at me and be like, oh, she's just double jointed. She's fine. I developed knee pain from very, very early on. Like, I've dealt with some level of pain in my body my whole life. And so like we went to doctor after doctor because my mom was like, there is no way this kind of knee pain is normal for a kid. And most of the time they were like, oh, it's fine. It's just growing pains. And then so that went on for a while. We finally saw one doctor who said I had like a roughening of the cartilage in my knees, wanted to cut my kneecaps off and stick them on straight. And I did not do that, thank goodness. But
wow, I can't believe somebody actually suggested that.
I think it was like 12 at the time.
Wow. Did you have to stop that, or did your parents stop that?
Oh, I was just like, heck no. Because I was also, I didn't like the guy from the beginning. I just had a vibe. But yeah, he wanted to tell me that I would walk out of the office after the procedure. I was like, you are full of it.
Wow.
No
Oh
way.
my God. Is he still in practice?
I don't know, actually. I'd have to do some digging to find that one out. But yeah, I was pretty appalled. And then actually within like just, I think last year, I found out what he had diagnosed me with was chondromalacia. And that's a very common misdiagnosis for kids with EDS.
Wow. How rare is this, what you have?
Well, so it kind of depends on who you talk to, because so they would say it's extremely rare, like only one in, I want to say like 500,000 are supposed to have it. But they're actually talking about adjusting that number to 1 in 5,000 because there's actually a huge spectrum of hypermobility. So you might get diagnosed with the full-blown EDS, or you might just be diagnosed with some kind of just generic hypermobility disorder. And they can't decide if it's all like just a spectrum or if it's like two different things. So they're realizing that there's a lot of people out there who have a certain degree of hypermobility, who deal with the pain and the fatigue and other issues.
Wow. So it also comes with fatigue, not just joint pain and muscle pain, but fatigue. I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I phased out when you said, take my knees and put them back on straight. I'm like, wow, that somebody like that's actually in practice, you know, just blows my mind. But it's a real, I mean, that's symbolic, I think, of a lot of what you went through. I mean, I'm actually looking over my shoulder here. You see that clock? Mm-hmm. It's stuck on 1:45. And it has been like forever. And we just have now decided not even to change the battery because it had to get changed every 5 minutes. But you must have felt like you were stuck in the same loop over and over. What made you go, no more?
So with EDS, it comes with a whole lot of other issues as well, like gut issues, hormonal issues, the whole body. Also, people with any hypermobility are about 70% more likely to have anxiety and depression because their body is just like on high alert all the time. And so for me, it was like I felt my body was falling apart by the time I was like 16. Like I couldn't function for the most part. I just dragged myself through every day. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't keep up with all the other kids. And every time I'd see a doctor and I'd bring up with them like, hey, I'm not sleeping well. Like I wake up feeling like I've been running all night. Like my hormones are totally out of whack. Like menstrual cycles were awful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like the gut issues. I was just like, nothing is working in my body. And I was like, it's
nothing
normal. Nothing's working. And it was just, I think after I'd had so many doctors tell me that like, oh, it's fine. Your lab tests are fine. That's a big one. Don't get me started on that. So
okay.
But yeah, oh, your lab tests are fine. Like you just need to toughen up. Like you probably just like, you're fine. Like you just need to change your perspective. And I was like, okay, clearly doctors don't know what's going on here.
So let me jump in there. Did they not do the right tests or they just not interpret the results well?
So my theory on that, because I see a lot of people who get that same thing with doctors.
So many women in particular get that, you know, toughen up and get over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so my theory on that one is that doctors have the normal, right? The lab test normal range. It's a huge range normally. And what I think happens is that not everyone is meant to exist within that normal range. I think some people, because like I fell on the within normal range for vitamin D, but I was on the complete bottom end, like one tick lower, I was off the chart. And the doctors were like, well, I mean, like it's low, but it's within normal. So like, you should be fine.
It was interpretation. They were taking the lazy man's.
Yeah. And I think that doctors sometimes fail to, I guess, like realize that some people are not meant to be within a certain normal range, that your normal may not be what the test says is normal. Like maybe you need to be in a much higher spot than on the low end to feel optimally, you know?
I love it. So you basically said enough is enough. and you started your own research, or did you meet somebody who had different answers? Tell me kind of how that evolved. And I'm particularly interested in how that evolved to something that now can help so many women, whether or not they have this particular issue.
Yeah. So I've always been very interested in healing. Like as a kid, even I was absolutely fascinated by herbal medicine and like acupuncture and Chinese medicine, all of that. I very seriously considered going into like a naturopathic type field. And there's definitely part of me that like, that's still on the table for down the road. We'll see.
I tell you what, anything we can do to get you more exposure to people, I think is worth doing. So anyway, keep going. But
yeah, no, so it's always fascinated me. So I've always known that there's more out there as options to treat the body besides just Western medicine. And I definitely really started latching onto it when I started realizing that there were naturopathic doctors out there who treated the body as a whole instead of like, oh, I have to go see a gynecologist for this. I have to see a gastroenterologist for that. I have to see an orthopedic for this. I'm like, no, can we just talk about how the whole thing is not working?
It's all one big thing, kids.
The whole thing, everything is connected. That's one of my biggest things. I am always hammering that home with people. Everything is connected. What happens in your gut will affect the rest of your body. And so I started doing a ton of my own research. I'm like one of those patients that a lot of doctors hate to get in their office because I'm basically telling them how to do their job.
Because you figure out what's actually wrong.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And so like between doing all my own research, I ended up, well, I guess go back to high school, I did start physical therapy. That was the one good thing that came out of meeting that doctor who wanted to take my kneecaps off when I flat out refused to do the surgery. He was like, okay, you need to at least go to physical therapy. So let's give him props for that. He did.
After that major insult of you rejecting having your kneecaps pulled off. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. He did get me in with a physical therapist who started just strengthening my body. I had been told my whole life not to do physical activity. And as soon as the physical therapist started strengthening my muscles, my knee pain disappeared and it has never come back.
Wow.
So I was like, holy moly, exercise makes me feel good. Wow. I didn't know this. And I hadn't quite figured out yet that it's not just any exercise, it's specific gentle strengthening.
Got it.
Because like, going out and doing a ton of box jumps, yeah, my knees would probably start hurting again.
Got it.
But
that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that kind of started my love of exercise. So in college, I got certified as a personal trainer, started working as a personal trainer. And then eventually I went on to get my master's in exercise science and corrective exercise as a specialty. So that I could actually, because I started seeing there's like a huge gap between when people are in physical therapy and then when they leave, and then everything just like falls apart again.
Well, this was the conversation we had on, it was either a one-on-one or a campfire. I can't remember which. Yeah, campfire. But, two things. My mom in particular, so she had both knees replaced and both hips replaced. And for the first knee and the first hip, she did the PT and then she kept up her mobility. But for the second hip and the second knee, she did the PT and then I forget what happened. I think she had fallen, but something happened that she fell off the wagon on keeping up the exercises. And she ended up being completely immobile the last 10 years of her life. And like knowing that there's another choice here is amazing. And I'm somebody, I have, a bad right knee. I've had my left knee replaced. I'm overweight. I've lost some weight. I've gained some weight. I've lost some weight. So the thing that I'm kind of interested in talking to you about is, for somebody that's 59, staring at 60 and going, wow, I'm out of shape and I'll never be in shape again. And I don't like running and I don't like heavy duty cardio and I don't want to be a weight builder. There's an answer.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So yes, there's absolutely an answer because my whole philosophy with movement is your body is made to move, right? You wouldn't have muscles and bones and joints if you weren't made, right? You'd be a big pile of mush instead. So when you start actually moving in ways that feel good, a lot of magical things start happening in the body. So your muscles are actually the primary pumpers of your lymph system. Your lymph system runs your immune system. It delivers all the immune stuff that you need throughout your body. It doesn't have a pump. Like your heart delivers all your blood through your body, and your heart is the pump, but your lymph system doesn't have one. So the more you move your body, the muscles actually pump the lymph for you.
Ah.
So yeah, like it makes you feel good. It releases all those good endorphins. And it actually helps start balancing hormones. It helps regulate you both mentally and physically, and it starts regulating all the other systems as well. The key is doing it in a way that feels good.
Talk to me about what that means. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's very specific to each individual, but generally you're looking at some kind of movement, whether it's walking or a lighter version of strength training where it's maybe even just your body weight. I start people off with a lot of core work because all of your movement comes from your core. Plus, I see most people tend to have a lot of either like back pain or hip pain, that kind of thing, from all the sitting we do. So their core and their glutes are very inactive. And so we want to get those activating again, because if your core and your glutes are inactive, nothing else is going to work well.
I love that.
And in fact, like trying to add, like I see this with so many people, they're like, all right, I'm going to start a workout program. And they dive into like P90X or CrossFit. And I'm like, wait, but your core isn't working. Oh no.
And then 5 minutes later, it's like, I'm done.
I'm
done.
And like they might keep it up for a bit and then they burn out or they get injured. And I'm like, well, we got to work the core first. So
I love that. And so that's, which is why I'll be calling you. But let's talk about the food part for a minute, right? So one of the things, like we have a holistic medicine doctor, great guy, and he does think about things very holistically, et cetera. And when, for example, I went to him and said, we looked at my numbers were awful, like diabetes, all the things. And we said, okay, basically you got to cut out the carbs, stop eating the white stuff, the bread, the pasta, blah, blah. Because if you just do that and don't cut them out, just cut them down, then you'll be okay. You're going to lose the weight. Your numbers are going to get better. Sure enough, I dropped, basically 40 pounds from October last year till now. And I have another 50 to drop. And I'm like on this little plateau here where I'm like, I can have a little carb. I can do a little bit of this, but I didn't really deprive myself completely. So my wife's a different person. Carbs. And she said, I'm not going to have any carbs. And that extreme, like I'm going to follow the rules to the letter. I don't like, one of the things that she's starting to do is go, okay, no, there's a balance here. And that's like one of those things that I'm interested in talking to you about, because so many, even holistic people say, cut out all the bad stuff, cut out all the meat, cut out all the cholesterol, cut out all the things and eat, I don't know, pull grass and plants from the ground. And that's what you can eat. That's not ever going to happen with me. Like part of me, that voice in my head is saying, life is short. I like this stuff. I'm going to eat it. Right. Is there hope for me in this world?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Oh man, like I feel like we could just talk about this for like hours. Okay, where do I start? Okay, one, let's start with the whole restriction mindset. Because anytime you start feeling restricted, anytime you feel like you have to do something, that inner toddler is going to come out and they're going to start rebelling and they're going to say, I don't want to. Yeah. Oh no, we froze.
Oh, there we are. Are we back? Yeah, we're back.
So you don't want to give your inner toddler a reason to come out and start throwing tantrums. There is a better way.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So one of the things I love is like, let's flip it around. Instead of saying all the things that you have to cut out, what can we add? Because when you start adding stuff in, so can you add an extra serving of veggies? Can you or even what could we swap too? Like if you really like having your carb with dinner, which for me, like I'm never going to cut out carbs, not ever. But like, can we swap it for something a little more nutrient dense? Like, could you swap your rolls for a sweet potato?
Yes, I could.
Yeah.
But I'm told to eat sweet potatoes. So yes, that feels so much better.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, again, could you add like an extra serving of veggies? Could you, and one of the things, like we've even worked on this in my house, because like I'm not here, I might be a health and fitness coach, but I'm not going to tell my husband what he can and can't do. Like, you know, that's not going to go well. So one of the things we started working on was like, okay, if you want to have some sweets, the guy has more of a sweet tooth than I do. It's crazy. But if you want to have some sweets, could you at least have like a handful of nuts to go with it so you have some protein?
I like that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. It's so much easier to swallow, no pun intended.
Yeah.
You can't. That is awesome advice. I love that. What can you add instead of what do you have to cut out? And somebody else mentioned to me, eat the protein first. I'm like, that's brilliant, because then I'm not missing my bread, but maybe when I get to my bread, I don't need to eat 4 rolls. I can get away with half a roll.
Yeah. And that's the exact idea too. If you start adding in more, like throughout the day, adding in more veggies, more nutrient dense foods, you're going to crowd out all the stuff that's like not good for you.
Because you're not going to be hungry.
Yeah, you're not hungry. And then that way too, and this is when I actually work with my daughter on this one, my 6-year-old, because if she could live on candy bars for her whole life, she would. And so we had to have this conversation about like, what is healthy food and why do we have to eat healthy food? Because she's like, it doesn't taste as good as the candy. Why would I eat it? I'm like, well, because the healthy food is for fueling your body and for filling you up. And the unhealthy food is for enjoying. And she was like, you could see like the little light bulb go off for her. She was like, so I have to fill up on the healthy food, but I can enjoy the unhealthy food. I was like, exactly.
I like that. So it's kind of like a dessert mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that. And I love like switching out bread for a sweet potato is so much more tolerable to me than cutting out bread. That really feels natural and easy. So that's pretty cool. So tell me, how do you work one in groups? What's your normal process?
Yeah. So I, every once in a while, or I guess a few times a year, I'll have like an actual group program going. But for the most part, I work one-on-one with clients right now. Yeah. At some point, I'm kind of looking at doing like a big 12-week kind of intensive group program. But right now I'm just really focused on the one-on-one clients.
Yeah, I do think what you do would lean itself towards an intensive program, because you could still have enough of a touch base with people to tell them what they personally need. But so much of your concept might be, just a process that everybody can kind of follow. What's the best way for people to reach out and contact you, Jess, if they're interested? Because I know a few will be for sure.
Yeah, mostly I'm on Facebook. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. So Facebook DM is the best?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing, if people drop some, here, let's just put that out there. If people drop some questions down below this conversation, would you be okay to jump in and pump answers in?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is awesome. And what I want you all to remember as you've watched this and listened to it, and most particularly like what Jess had to deal with as a child here, she's the one we just posted today, I guess 2 days ago, it was a 10K, right?
Yep.
Ran a 10K. And all I heard when I asked before we went live, hey, are things sore? Or are they not sore? Was, I may do a little bit of exercise a little bit later to loosen up, but it's not that bad. So from, hi there, child, we need to rip your kneecaps off and put them on in a different direction, to managing her health holistically, and then choosing to teach a lot of other people who may or may not have this kind of disorder. They may have my kind of disorders, which is more in my brain than anything else. It's an amazing give back. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate you in this community, and just can't thank you enough for what you're doing out there. anything we can do to support you, we are 100,000% there.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that.
I mean, let us know. You have any questions about scaling up to do this group thing, drop them in the group, DM me. We will get answers to you, because what you're doing is world changing. And I think you really do have an avatar in the, high 50, 60-year-old world, because that's where we start to feel these aches and pains. That's where we're tired of having a pill thing that we have to keep getting a bigger and bigger pill box. We keep getting more and more pills. And I think there's just so much here that I know I'm going to be following up with you. And it's just, I just really appreciate what you're out there doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And for coming in to talk to everybody here. I know there are going to be questions. I'll make sure that I tag you if I see any that you're not tagged in, and we'll get answers to them out there as quickly as we can. So folks, if you've been on the weight roller coaster, if you've been under the assumption that you have to be a weightlifter or a runner in order to have healthy exercise, if you've been under the impression that you have to have majorly stringent diet reductions in order to live a healthy and fit life, it's not the case. Look up Jess, find out what she's doing. She's got her own Facebook, her Facebook feed, and access to her in this group. I know I can bribe her into coming on to another campfire one of these days. And drop your questions in this particular StreamYard Live as well, because we really, really appreciate that you popped on with us.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you having me. It was fun.
Awesome. You guys all have a fantastic rest of the hump day, and we will see you here tomorrow. Take care.